Namaskar. A warm welcome to the World News, an Indian perspective on All India Radio. This is Nishit Kumar, and with me is Abhinit Shukla, bringing glimpses of the major developments of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment, and more. The headlines: over 3,000 flights cancelled on the eve of Christmas and new curbs imposed amid Omicron spread in Europe and the United States. Indian government says world is witnessing the fourth COVID surge, emphasizes the need to remain vigilant with COVID-appropriate behavior. South Korean President Moon Jae-in announces to pardon his predecessor Park Geun-hye, serving 20-year prison term over bribery charges. Massive fire in passenger ferry kills 39 people in Bangladesh. Indian skier Untitled Chapter wins bronze medal at the FIS Alpine skiing competition in Montenegro. And in cricket, India to lock horns with Pakistan in 50-over group stage match of the ACC Under-19 Asia Cup in Dubai tomorrow. As India marches towards administering 150 crore vaccine doses against COVID-19, news about the new corona variant is a cause for concern. In this situation, we appeal to our listeners to get fully vaccinated at the earliest and help others get vaccinated. Please continue to follow these three simple steps to stay safe. Wear a face mask. Maintain 2 gaz ki duri for social distancing and focus on hand and face hygiene. For any COVID-related information and guidance, contact national helpline numbers 011 2397 8046 and 1075. And now the news in detail. Millions of people are facing travel disruptions and increased COVID restrictions on the eve of Christmas as the surging Omicron variant sees safety curbs tightened and flights cancelled. Italy, Spain and Greece have made face masks compulsory outdoors again. Catalonia in northern Spain have imposed an overnight curfew, and the Netherlands is in a strict lockdown. Despite early findings that Omicron is milder than other variants, scientists are concerned by the number of cases. Record infections were tallied in the United Kingdom, France and Italy on Thursday. In the US, daily Omicron cases have risen beyond the peak of the recent Delta wave, and hospitals are filling up across the country. Meanwhile, around 3,000 flights were cancelled on Christmas Eve globally, including about 500 in the United States alone, as airlines face staff shortage due to illness amid a surge in COVID-19 cases led by its Omicron variant. At least 3 major airlines said they have cancelled dozens of flights because illnesses largely tied to the Omicron variant of COVID-19 have taken a toll on the flight crew numbers during the busy holiday travel season. Germany-based Lufthansa said on Friday that it was cancelling a dozen long-haul transatlantic flights over the Christmas holiday period because of a massive rise in sick leave among pilots. The cancellations on flights to Houston, Boston and Washington came despite a large buffer of additional staff for the period. US-based Delta Airlines and United Airlines said they had to cancel dozens of Christmas Eve flights because of staff shortages tied to Omicron. United cancelled 170 flights and Delta called off 133 according to FlightAware. The cancellations come as coronavirus infections fueled by the new variant further squeeze staffing at hospitals, police departments, supermarkets and other critical operations struggling to maintain a full contingent of frontline workers. United States will lift the travel restrictions imposed on 8 southern African countries last month following the discovery of the COVID-19 Omicron variant. White House Assistant Press Secretary Kevin Munoz on Friday announced that U.S. President Joe Biden will lift the restrictions on December 31st. Mr. Munoz noted that the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention recommended that restrictions be lifted. The Biden administration announced the restriction on South Africa, Botswana, Zimbabwe, Namibia, Lesotho, Eswatini, Mozambique and Malawi last month to try and tame the spread of the Omicron variant. Meanwhile, the U.S. is rolling out new measures to fight COVID-19 variant Omicron by providing an additional $580 million from the American Rescue Plan Act to support 7 partner multilateral organizations who are working tirelessly in the global fight against the coronavirus. Amid growing concerns of surging COVID-19 cases, the United States has announced that it will waive the in-person interview requirement for a range of visa applicants during the entire year in 2022, including for H-1B workers and students, many of whom are from India. The H-1B visa is a non-immigrant visa that allows U.S. companies to employ foreign workers in specialty occupations that require theoretical or technical expertise. Technology companies depend on it to hire tens of thousands of employees each year from countries like India and China. The Department of State on Thursday announced that consular officers are now temporarily authorized through December 31st, 2022 to waive in-person interviews for certain individual petition-based non-immigrant work visas and their qualifying derivatives in certain categories.
The Indian government has said that the world is witnessing the fourth surge with regard to COVID cases. Briefing media in New Delhi on Friday, Union Health Secretary Rajesh Bhushan mentioned that the World Health Organization has said that Omicron has greater transmissibility compared to Delta variant, as the Omicron cases double within 1.5 to 3 days. He emphasized the need to remain vigilant with COVID-appropriate behavior.
The world is witnessing the fourth surge and the overall positivity is 6.1. So therefore we have to be on guard and we cannot afford to loosen our guard. We cannot afford to slacken.
The Health Secretary has informed that so far 358 Omicron cases have been detected in 17 states and union territories in the country. Globally, total number of Omicron cases reported in 108 countries are over 151,000. On the issue of preparedness to deal with the situation in the country, the Health Secretary said that learning from the first and the second wave of COVID pandemic in the country, more than 18 lakh isolation beds are made available in the country. On the availability of medical oxygen capacity, the Health Secretary said there was a 10-fold increase in oxygen demand from the first wave to the second wave, and there is now 18,800 metric tons of medical oxygen per day capacity available. On COVID vaccination, he said that 89% of total adult population has received the first dose, while 61% has received the second dose. During the media briefing, Director General of Indian Council of Medical Research, Dr. Balram Bhargav said, the infection by Omicron does not necessarily lead to severe symptomatic clinical disease. Niti Aayog member Health Dr. V.K. Paul stressed on the need for wearing of masks and maintaining constant vigil. He said unnecessary travel by the people should be avoided.
We have emphasized individual discipline, wearing masks, hygiene, no crowding, unnecessary travel to be avoided, not to create lockdown. So individual behavior, systemic response by way of surveillance strategy and by way of the required restrictions on a societal level, and of course constant vigil.
India's COVID vaccination coverage has crossed 140 crore 93 lakh mark. The cumulative figure stands at 140 crore 93 lakh 45,905 so far. Out of the total vaccination, more than 83 crore 42 lakh vaccine doses have been administered as first dose, while over 57 crore 50 lakh doses have been administered as the second dose. Union Health and Family Welfare Ministry said more than 59 lakh 53,000 vaccine doses were administered till 7 p.m. on Friday. As part of the nationwide vaccination drive, the centre is supporting the states and the union territories by providing them COVID vaccines free of cost. In Thailand, the first case of coronavirus infections from the Omicron variant has been detected in Kalasin province of the northeastern part of the country. Thailand's COVID-19 task force spokeswoman Apisamai Srirangansan has said that 21 new infections have been found in Kalasin province. She said the infections stem from a couple who travelled from Belgium through Thailand's Test and Go scheme that waived quarantine for vaccinated arrivals. The announcement comes as Thailand's capital city Bangkok cancelled government-sponsored New Year activity, including midnight prayers.
In Japan, government's regulatory panel has approved the use of COVID-19 antiviral treatment pill called Molnupiravir, developed by Merck & Co. Inc. National broadcaster NHK reported that the approval was widely expected. It said it opens the door to shipments of 200,000 doses across the country from this weekend. South Korean President Moon Jae-in said Friday he will pardon his chief conservative rival and predecessor, Park Geun-hye, who is serving a lengthy prison term for bribery and other crimes. Moon's Liberal government said the pardon is meant to promote national unity in the face of difficulties brought by the pandemic. The presidential election is to take place in March next year. The Justice Ministry said that 69-year-old Park is among 3,094 people who are to be pardoned on December 31st. South Korea often grants special pardons to mark New Year's Day or national holidays. Park has been treated since last month in a hospital from where she'll be released, the ministry said. In comments released by lawyer Yoo Young-ha, Park thanked Moon for pardoning her and said she will focus on treating her illness. Park won election as South Korea's first female president in late 2012 by beating Moon by 1 million votes. She was impeached by lawmakers in late 2016 as was formally removed from office and arrested the following year over an explosive corruption scandal that prompted months of massive street protests. In January, the Supreme Court upheld her 20-year prison term. In Bangladesh, at least 39 people were killed and more than 70 sustained burn injuries as a passenger ferry caught fire midstream in the Sugandha River near Jhalokati, Sadar Upazila in the early hours of Friday. According to official news agency BSS, the police confirmed recovery of 39 bodies, though the death toll is likely to go up as several of the injured persons are in a critical condition. More than 300 passengers were on board the MV Abhijan when the fire broke out. The passenger ferry was on its way to Baraguna from Dhaka. Fire department officials suspect that the fire originated in the engine room. The fire spread quickly and many of the passengers jumped into the river to save their lives. Bangladesh government set up a 7-member committee to inquire into the reasons for the accident and submit its report within 3 days. The incident is another in the series of similar incidents in Bangladesh. In August this year, 21 people were killed when 2 boats collided in Brahmanbaria district. Poor safety standards and overcrowding are considered the probable reasons for such accidents in Bangladesh.
Coast Guard divers searched the hull of a submerged sailboat for passengers possibly trapped inside Friday after the vessel hit rocks and sank off the coast of southern Greece, leading to the death of at least 11 people. The Greek Coast Guard said 90 people, 52 men, 11 women and 27 children were rescued overnight and early Friday from a rocky islet some 235 kilometers south of Athens near the remote island of Antikythera. Smugglers based in Turkey increasingly have packed sailboats with migrants and refugees and sent them across the Mediterranean Sea towards Italy, avoiding the heavily patrolled Greek islands. More than 116,000 asylum seekers crossed the Mediterranean Sea to reach EU countries this year as of December the 19th, according to UNHCR. The agency said 55% travelled illegally to Italy, 35% to Spain and 7% to Greece, with the remainder heading to Malta and Cyprus. Japan's cabinet approved a record $47 billion defense budget for the fiscal year 2022 on Friday to bolster its defense capabilities in response to China's growing military might and its tensions with Taiwan. The 1.1% budget increase for the year beginning April is the 10th consecutive defense spending increase. It is in line with Japan's pledge to the United States to strengthen its own defense capabilities to tackle increasingly challenging security issues in the region. The budget, which still needs to be approved by the parliament, includes a record $2.55 billion for defense research and development, up 38% from the current year. Of that, $870 million is for development of the F-X fighter jet to replace Japan's aging fleet of F-2 aircraft around 2035. It would be Japan's first domestically developed fighter jet in 40 years.
U.S. President Joe Biden has signed the Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act that bans import of goods into the United States made with forced labor in China's Xinjiang province. White House said the president signed into law which bans imports from the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region of the People's Republic of China. It also imposes sanctions on foreign individuals responsible for forced labor in the region. Earlier this month, the U.S. Senate and the House of Representatives passed the bill with overwhelming support. The legislation targets goods, wares, articles and merchandise imported directly from Xinjiang or made by Uyghurs, Kazakhs, Kyrgyz, Tibetans or members of other persecuted groups in China. This is All India Radio giving you the news. For quick news updates around the clock, follow us on Twitter at AIR News Alerts. In Afghanistan, more than 6,400 journalists have lost their jobs since Taliban takeover of the country. Reports have emerged from Afghanistan of an increasing crackdown by the Taliban on journalists. In a recent survey conducted by the Reporters Without Borders, RSF and the Afghan Independent Journalists Association shows a radical change in the Afghan media landscape since the Taliban took power. The survey said as many as 231 media outlets have had to close. More than 4 out of every 10 media outlets have disappeared and 60% of journalists and media employees are no longer able to work. The survey reveals that women journalists are mostly affected as 80% of them have lost their jobs since Taliban took control of Kabul. In a statement, the RSF said that out of 543 media outlets tallied in Afghanistan at the start of the summer of 2021, only 312 are still operating at the end of November. This means that 43% of Afghan media outlets disappeared in the space of 3 months. And in today's Hotspot section, we bring you a special program on 2021, another year of continuing hardship in Pakistan. The writer is Dr. Ashok Behoria.
Pakistan remained mired in social, political and economic turbulence throughout the year 2021. On the external front, the initial euphoria about the return of the Taliban yielded to realistic apprehensions about its toxic impact on Pakistani society and politics. The year started with the Maj massacre of Hazara Shias in Balochistan, and the year drew to a close with continuing protests by the Baloch in Gwadar. Political opposition to power Prime Minister Imran Khan intensified as the economy showed signs of stress, temporarily alleviated by the Saudi decision to come to Pakistan's rescue with deposit of $3 billion in the State Bank of Pakistan. At the social level, there were organized ethnic protests, enforced disappearances and excesses by Pakistani security forces, mainly on the Baloch and the Pashtun population, with grabbed headlines. Armed resistance by the Baloch rebels continued with regular attacks on security forces and Chinese interests. The Pashtuns of the tribal areas continued to suffer at the hands of the security forces and held regular protests against arbitrary arrests of Pashtun activists and leaders. Together with continuing anti-Shia sectarian violence, the assertion by the Barelvi Tehreek-e-Labbaik Pakistan TLP and subsequent surrender of the state of its demands indicated that slowly but surely the Pakistani society is getting radicalized at all levels, sectarian and ethnic. At the political level, the ongoing tussle between Imran Khan's Tehreek-e-Insaf party and the opposition defined the nature of politics emerging in Pakistan today. It is the Pakistani establishment or the deep state that seems to control the political process effectively in its favor. It has ensured that the opposition stays divided and Imran Khan government does not fall. At the same time, it has calibrated opposition politics in such a manner that Imran feels the heat of it perennially and remains dependent on the army for his survival. Over the last 3 years, the opposition has staged about 25 demonstrations, but Imran Khan has successfully dug them all through bluster and bluff. He has staged up new alliances in the parliament with the covert support of the army. At the economic level, Pakistan has managed to avail of Saudi and International Monetary Fund (IMF) help to keep its economy on track. However, the inflation is on the rise. The opposition is holding multiple Mehengai marches. The total debt has gone beyond PK rupees 50 trillion, up from PK rupees 30 trillion under the previous government. The Pakistani rupee continues to fall vis-a-vis US dollar, touching 180 PKR per dollar. Amid all this, the Saudi money might have briefly stabilized the economy, but it has come with higher rate of interest and with a clause that Pakistan would have to pay up within 72 hours of Saudi's demand. Pakistan's credit ratings have dipped further. Its reputation remains tainted. In October, the Financial Action Task Force, or FATF, the global watchdog on terror financing, decided to keep Pakistan in the grey list for deficiencies in its counter-terror finance and anti-money laundering regimes. Islamabad had, under pressure, even initiated cases against Hafiz Saeed and Zakiur Rahman Lakhvi, the main accused in the 26/11 Mumbai attacks. However, it has not escaped FATF's attention that Pakistan has not curbed financial networks of terror groups closely linked to or working for the Pakistani state. The FATF may also initiate inquiry into Pandora Papers to investigate money laundering operations and the terror finance networks being run covertly by the Pakistan army through shady businessmen and politicians. Amid all this, Pakistan counted Taliban's return as a huge victory of its diplomacy and security policy. However, this glory was short-lived. The adverse consequences of this manifested very soon in the shape of the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan (TTP) intensifying its activities. The army sought mediation by the Haqqani group to tame TTP. This has failed. There is a desperate bid now to turn the attention away from the domestic challenges towards India baiting. This is a well-known strategy employed by the deep state of Pakistan to ensure national unity from time to time. Such diversions may have helped the ruling elite of Pakistan to hide their incompetence and inaptitude for the time being, but in the long run, Islamabad's incapacity to deal with the threat of radicalism may spell disaster for the state of Pakistan. Prime Minister Narendra Modi chaired the first meeting of the High-Level Committee HLC, which has been constituted to commemorate 150th birth anniversary of Sri Aurobindo in a befitting manner. Speaking on the occasion, the Prime Minister expressed his gratitude to the esteemed members for their valuable thoughts and suggestions on Sri Aurobindo's commemoration. Mr. Modi said that the two aspects of Sri Aurobindo's philosophy of revolution and evolution are of key importance and should be emphasized as part of the commemoration. He also added that it is the responsibility of India as a spiritual leader of the world to contribute in terms of spiritualism to nations across the globe. The Prime Minister proposed to launch the commemoration celebrations of Sri Aurobindo from Puducherry, coinciding with the celebration of National Youth Day. Mr. Modi said this will encourage the youth to visit Puducherry and learn about his life and teachings, where Sri Aurobindo spent his life from 1910 to 1950. India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh said that terrorism will be eradicated from the country. He was addressing a gathering after a program in Dhule district of Maharashtra on Friday. Mr. Singh said that whoever tries to cross the path of India will not be spared. Without naming Pakistan, he said, if the neighbouring country indulges in the sinister act, then they will have to pay a heavy price. The Defence Minister said through surgical strikes, the country has shown that India can hit the enemy targets by entering into their territory as well.
The United States, United Kingdom, France, Germany and Italy have urged the Libyan electoral body today to set a new date for the long-awaited polls that would finalize power transfer in the country. Earlier, the National Elections Commission had expressed its inability to hold the general elections scheduled today, citing inadequacies in electoral legislation and challenges related to candidates' eligibility. The Western government said that the candidates holding executive positions in public institutions should continue vacating them until the announcement of the electoral results to avoid conflicts of interest and warn forces inside and outside of Libya against undermining the power transition. The elections are crucial for the North African nation's staggering peace process that began with the signing of a ceasefire deal between the rival Libyan administrations in October 2020.
Myanmar's military has carried out more airstrikes on a rebel-controlled area near the Thai border in the latest escalation of violence that has sent hundreds fleeing into Thailand. The Karen National Union, KNU, said the military launched at least 2 airstrikes and fired some artillery rounds on an area under its control near the Thai-Myanmar border late on Thursday. A spokesman for the Myanmar's military junta said did not answer calls seeking comment from Reuters news agency. Fresh fighting between the Myanmar military and the KNU broke out last week and more than 4,200 people have crossed into Thailand since the violence began, Thailand's foreign ministry said. Civil society groups have said the number of displaced is as high as 10,000. KNU spokesman Saw Tao Ni said that the airstrikes have further displaced more civilians living in the area and repeated his group's call for the international community to establish a no-fly zone in the area. Myanmar has been in turmoil since the military ousted a civilian government led by Nobel laureate Aung San Suu Kyi on February the 1st, triggering protests and sporadic clashes in the countryside between anti-junta militia and the army. Thailand's foreign ministry spokesman Tani Sangrat said at a press conference on Friday that Thailand was concerned about the latest violence in Karen state that also impacted Thai people living along the border. Several foreign envoys to Myanmar, including from the EU, Britain and the US, issued a joint statement on Friday calling for an end to indiscriminate attacks in Karen state and elsewhere by the military. The Sensex and the Nifty today logged modest losses. Both stocks fell amid mixed cues from the global equity markets. The Sensex closed below 57,200 points while the Nifty settled near the 17,000 mark. A report from the Business World.
BSE Sensex fell 191 points up to trade at 57,124. NSE Nifty also slipped by 69 points to trade at 17,004. Asian equity indices are mixed and trading in a narrow range. South Korea's Kospi rose 0.5%, Singapore's Straits Times gained 0.4% and Hong Kong's Hang Seng added 0.1%. On the other hand, Japan's Nikkei 225 slipped by 0.1% and China's Shanghai Composite Index fell by 0.7%. European markets were also mixed in intraday trade. Brent crude oil prices witnessed modest losses. In intraday trade, Brent crude was trading around $76.20 per barrel. Back home, gold prices gained marginally by 50 rupees at the multi-commodity exchange for February contracts. The precious metal was trading at 48,200 rupees per 10 grams in intraday trade. Silver prices fell marginally by 40 rupees to 62,270 rupees per kilogram for March contracts when reports last came in. And in the foreign exchange market, the rupee appreciated by 23 paise against the US dollar. The domestic unit closed at 75 rupees and 2 paise against the US currency. Arjun Chaudhary for World News, All India Radio.
Christmas celebrations are about to commence in the country tonight. Midnight masses are organized in the churches on the occasion. On the Christmas Eve, cities across the country and globe are lit up with decorative lights, while houses are well adorned with Christmas decorations to commemorate the birth of Jesus Christ. with religious fervour. In Meghalaya, commercial hubs like Police Bazaar and Eudor in East Khasi Hills district are witnessing heavy rush of the people, while cake shops in the city are also being thronged by people. In view of the Christmas and New Year festivities, night curfew enforced to contain COVID-19 has been lifted by the district administration for 3 days till 31st of December. Church services relating to Christmas or New Year have been permitted by the state subject to compliance to the standard operating procedure. President Ramnath Kovind and Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu have extended the greetings to the nation on the eve of auspicious Christmas. Ace Indian skier Anchal Takur has bagged bronze medal at the FIS Alpine skiing competition in Montenegro. She finished at the third position. Georgia Epifanio, who won silver medal, was just 2 seconds ahead of Anchal. With this, Anchal has become the first Indian ski athlete to win 2 medals at the international level. She has previously won a bronze medal in the 2018 FIS Alpine 3200 Cup held in Turkey.
In cricket, India will lock horns with Pakistan in a 50-over group stage match of the ACC Under-19 Asia Cup in Dubai on Saturday. The match will begin at 11 a.m. Indian Standard Time. Skipper Yash Dhul-led Team India thrashed host UAE by 154 runs in their opening match in Dubai yesterday. In other matches played on the same day, Pakistan beat Afghanistan by 4 wickets and Sri Lanka defeated Kuwait by 274 runs. The tournament is being played ahead of the Under-19 World Cup in the West Indies next month. Now let us take a look at the major developments around the world as reported in the foreign press. The Guardian reports the government plans UK-wide COVID booster alert to mobile phones. Sputnik News writes, Russia will respond with adequate military measures to host elections by the West, Moscow warns. Financial Times writes, France and allies condemn deployment of Russia-linked mercenaries in Mali. The Street Journal Wall notes that US President Biden to lift travel ban on southern African nations December 31st. South China Morning Post reports China won't lose a new Cold War because it's not the Soviet Union, says ambassador to US. The Japan Times says Tokyo confirms first case of Omicron community transmission. Washington Post reports that Omicron in South Africa seems to cause relatively mild illness. That may not be true everywhere, Africa CDC says. A rare walking handfish, which is native only to Australia, has been spotted for the first time in 22 years off the Tasmanian coast. The pink handfish was last sighted by a diver of Tasmania in 1999 and has only been seen 4 other times. Fearing for its survival, officials had recently classified it as endangered. But Australian researchers say they have found it again on a deep-sea camera recording taken earlier this year in a marine park. The new vision shows the fish in deeper and more open waters than it had lived in previously.
And before we close, a quick look at the headlines once again. Over 3,000 flights cancelled on the eve of Christmas and new curbs imposed amid Omicron spread in Europe and the United States. Indian government says world is witnessing 4th COVID surge, emphasizes the need to remain vigilant with COVID-appropriate behavior. South Korean President Moon Jae-in announces to pardon his predecessor Park Geun-hye, serving 20 years prison term over bribery charges. Massive fire in passenger ferry kills 39 people in Bangladesh. And ace Indian skier Anchal Takur wins bronze medal at the FIS Alpine skiing competition in Montenegro. And in cricket, India to lock horns with Pakistan in 50-over group stage match of the ACC Under-19 Asia Cup in Dubai tomorrow. India is celebrating the 152nd birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. Before we end, let us listen to his favorite bhajan Vaishnav Jan by artists from Malta. And with that, we end this bulletin. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of World News.